Hey everybody, Rich Wildman here with another MSI Extra. On today's Extra, we have a musician who actually we've known for a while. He was a song selectee back in 2013, Song of the Week, with his track. You wait for it. You know what it is, don't you? It's one of my favorites. That's What She Said. Of course, we make jokes about that all the time, but not for the reasons you'd think. Jamie Alimorad is here with us. Hey, Jamie, how the heck are you, sir? How you doing?
I'm doing well, Rich. How are you? Thanks for having me on board.
Doing real good. I'm glad you're here. There's a lot of things that you've got going on, a lot of things you've been involved with. I want to sit and talk with you about some of those things today while we've got you online with us.
Right?
Now, before we go too far, I want to give the disclaimer that I give all the time. If there are any technical issues, we apologize for them up front. This is live. It's not being edited in any way, shape, or form. No sleight of hand tricks or anything like that. So please bear with us. Stay tuned. We'll put the testing, whatever, technical difficulties thing up if we have to. It's all good from there, though. All right, so Jamie, you've been around in music, making girls swoon since 2008. How did you
Yeah.
get started with music, and how did you get going to where you are today?
Well, I started playing piano at a pretty young age. My elementary school music teacher approached my parents, and then they talked to me about it, and I said I wanted to take some lessons. So I started in elementary school there and then became a total band geek. And in middle school, I kind of had my first taste of school pop stardom, if you will, from doing the talent shows and seeing girls' reactions and how an audience reacts. It's like, oh, I could do this as a career. So I did that throughout middle school and did the whole cover thing and formed a garage band, and we played all the school dances and town events and functions. And then in high school, I moved on to start doing some musical theater and really loved that. And then in college, I studied music technology and formed a band. We played in the campus nightclub and in our hometowns and did a couple of events, and a big parade in Massachusetts was our highlight. And then after a lot of people with other commitments or their class schedule couldn't do it, I decided to go out on my own. And I started playing, parties on campus and back in the campus nightclub after hours, and then eventually out into Boston and playing around the bars and clubs in there. And it started to get bigger and bigger until eventually it led to an album. And then it takes on a whole life of its own.
Now, we talked a little bit before we actually started recording this interview about your music degree from the Northeastern University. And it's
Yep.
a Bachelor of Science in Music, which I was a little bit confused about. So
Yeah, it's
for
cool.
those of us who may think like me, which is probably none of them, but for anybody who might be confused like I was, what's the difference in a Bachelor's of Science in Music compared to Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Music?
I mean, it might be different in other schools, but as far as Northeastern was concerned, it really came down to the curriculum. So music technology was about engineering and synthesis and really playing with the wires, if you will, of instruments and doing these big soundscapes and working with computers. So when you had to go into your liberal art courses, there was a lot of emphasis on math and science, where if I was a music industry major at the school, I would have to be more focused on language, English and foreign language, and anything that's not math and science. So I'm pretty sure that is what it boils down to, is when you go inside the core, there's more stuff on the science end and with the liberal arts stuff. That's what I believe, and especially comparing it to my friends who are music industry majors. And I was an industry minor, so I still had to do some of those courses, but nowhere near. I mean, it was really heavy on computer classes and math and science.
All right, well, I got you. That clears it up for me quite a bit, actually.
Mhm.
Now, a little point of trivia for everybody. You said you were in a band back in the day.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
couple.
You got to let us know the name of the first band. So when Trivial Pursuit 2025 comes out and
It's
you're up there for your fifth Grammy and somebody pulls the question out of the box, You know, back in the 20 aughts, Jamie Alimorad started his musical career out in what band? The answer will be
The name of the band was Blackbelt. And the reason we had that name is because we were four martial artists that were talking about music before a sparring class and said, yo, we should form a band. And we were all in middle school and we couldn't come up with a name. So one name was like too heavy metal. The other was too fluffy and poppy. So the only thing we could agree upon was the fact that we were all black belts and we're doing martial arts, and we all were competitive martial artists and went out to do the tournaments and stuff. So we chose that. It's a terrible name. I mean, it's awful, but we got a lot of gigs, and it lasted longer than I would have thought. We played together for almost 4 years until it fell apart, and egos got in the way and schedules were too busy and all that stuff.
Now, is it always the case that you found? Now, I was in a band back in the early 80s, from like 1982 to 1992 or so. And it's always a case, it seems to me, maybe you can tell me differently, is it always a case where the egos are what brings the band down? Because that's the way it was with it was egos in politics.
That's what it's been for, in whether I've been under a band name or even if it's been people that I work with under my solo project. There's always been some sort of clash of ego, or someone feels that you're purposely hurting their feelings when you're actually just trying to do what's most beneficial to the project. And I mean, I find that it all stems from some sort of insecurity, and it could really come from something that's so minuscule and it just gets blown out of proportion. And that's unfortunate, but at the same time, it works out better in the long run, because if you're going to make such a big deal out of nothing, what are you going to do when things start to get complicated?
Yeah, so, like when a lot of money's involved.
Exactly. So I learned a lot at a very young age of how to start dealing with people, and especially musicians, because we're kind of our own breed of people, Yeah.
Now, I mentioned that back in 2013, you had submitted That's What She Said as a song to be put in front of our panel.
Yep.
And that song was selected. It was reviewed by our panel, and you were selected as Song of the Week.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. This is another point where a lot of artists seem to have thin skins when it comes to real critiques and reviews of their music. A lot of people want people to say, yeah, I like that song. I really could dance to it, or blah, blah, the whole American bandstand kind of thing.
Yeah, of course.
And that's not what MSI is about. We get down some serious brass tacks and nails, and no punches pulled reviews. So how did that affect you? How did being in front of that panel and not knowing what they were going to say about your song, how'd that whole process seem to you?
I really enjoyed the deconstruction of it, and to have a nice little spirited debate on what someone else might find more appealing sonically, or what they wish they could have heard more of, and where I came from as the songwriter and as the singer and a musician on the track, what I was thinking at that time. And if you can't take the criticism, it's really difficult to be in this industry, because you're going to hear way more no's and I don't like this more than you're going to hear yes and I love this. So I appreciate anybody that is just directly upfront with me and giving their honest critique of any of my songs, because it's not going to be for everyone. As universally loved as the Beatles are, there are people that don't like the Beatles.
Yeah.
There are people that don't like Stevie Wonder or Sting or so many of these other icons that are out there. And that's just the way that it is. There's nothing for, everybody. You just try and make as many people as you can happy. And, songwriting is selfish, because you're writing about your feelings or something that you've seen or experienced yourself or saw someone else that go through. You write it out of your own pleasure, and then you hope someone else gets pleasure out of it. And if someone doesn't, you have to be able to stand by your convictions and say, well, this is why I did it, and I'm still proud of it. And if you can't really take that, it's probably something you should do more as a hobby than as a career, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. Well, you had no worries about That's What She Said. You should be very proud of that. I know you are. And
I love that song. It's so wacky.
It's a catchy tune.
Yeah, it's one of the weirder things that I've ever done, and it took a long time to come together. And I had that chorus in my head for years until I finally got a groove and for the instruments.
And if I remember correctly, in the middle of that track, there was a little dubstep action going on in that.
Yeah, the people I was working with at the time, they were getting into that with rock music, and I thought that'd be a cool way to bring a modern sound to it. And dubstep has kind of gone away at this point, which I really don't mind. But I wanted to bring a futuristic sound to that track because it was so keyboard heavy with what was going on with the vocals. And I felt having an electronic breakdown with the guitars also kind of getting phased out and chopped up and recycled, that would be how to do it. And you know, now that I can look back on it, there are things that maybe I would do a little bit differently. And you know, there's always opportunities for new arrangements, and you know, you keep reinventing your songs for live shows and stuff like that. So down the line, I'll definitely experiment with it more. But I really love that song and the tongue-in-cheek lyric that goes with it.
No, it's a very good song. I really enjoy it as well. In fact, I still listen to it to this day.
Awesome.
So
that's what I like to hear.
You know, you should be proud, and I'm happy to listen to it. Now, I want to talk some more about some of the other things you've been involved with. We talked a little bit about theater and things like that. Now, people may not know that you were the youngest person ever to win a Helen Hayes Theater Award for Outstanding Actor in a Leading Role.
Yeah.
Now, this is something, again, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording this, and you happened to tell me that you also not only played at Fenway Park, right?
Yep.
But you had the opportunity to perform with Jordan Rudess.
Yep.
Now, now, two of the three have something in common, I think, right?
Yeah, they do.
All right, so let's talk about that first. First of all, Helen Hayes Theater Award and Jordan Rudess. Tell us how those things kind of match up.
So my high school took part in this musical theater community, which was the Helen Hayes Youth Theater, and they were based out of Nyack, New York, and they had a conglomerate of about 25, 26 schools throughout New York and into New Jersey that you would submit nominations in your program, and you could be up for what we considered to be like a high school Tony. And it was a black tie affair, and it was the day after the Tony Awards, and it was a really big deal. And because I was nominated for Outstanding Actor in a Leading Role, I was invited to perform a number. So I went into rehearsal, and I had to go to someone's house. And it was the theater company's director, the president, you know, the main woman in charge. It was her house, and her husband was going to be my accompanist. And I walked in, and I recognized the last name. And I walk in, and I meet this guy, and you know, shaved head and kind of a funky goatee beard coming down here, and he looked familiar. And you know, he said, "My name is Jordan." And I'm like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you." And I think, Jordan Rudess. But I knew Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater to have long hair and kind of be, you know, his nickname, the Wizard, and all this stuff. And I've seen pictures of him kind of, you know, hiding behind his hair, playing keyboards and stuff. So I said, well, this can't be that Jordan Rudess. It must be a Jordan Rudess. And then as I was walking through the hallways and got towards his grand piano, I started seeing framed covers and magazines of Jordan Rudess and Keyboard Magazine and albums and all that stuff. And then I started, you know, scratching my head and say, wait a minute, could this be the same guy? And finally, after running through the number a couple of times, I just had to come out and ask and say, I'm sorry, are you the Jordan Rudess or a Jordan Rudess? And he laughed and said, no, I'm the keyboard player in Dream Theater. Like, oh, my God, I was wondering. And he goes, yeah, I know. I chopped it all off and that sort of thing. And we hit it off. And then the night of the show, I sang and played with him. And a couple of years later, I did some stuff in the studio with him and worked with him. I forgot the name of the album that he was doing sessions on. But I know I missed Kip Winger by one day, and I was like, dang it, I really would have liked to meet Kip. I like him. I know because of Beavis and Butthead, Winger kind of gets a bad rap, but I don't know. I love songs like Headed for a Heartbreak and all the others, and good bass player, good singer. So that was disappointing. But he's a really nice guy, good family, and I got to meet all the guys from Dream Theater shortly thereafter, and they were all really nice, really nice.
Yeah, that's very cool. That, you know, it's just goes to show you how small of a world it really is, you know.
Yep.
So, all right, now a couple of things I want to talk about. First of all, you're doing a new project.
Yes, I am.
Now, this is right on the heels, actually, about a year apart, I guess, of your music video, which just took YouTube by storm.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you a little bit about the video first.
Sure.
Now, the video, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, you need to go out and watch this video, of course. This was done, if I remember correctly, in your hometown. The video was recorded?
Yep.
So tell me about the song. Tell me about the video. And I got to ask, the bodyguards spraying the gal with water as she's, you know, the crazy girlfriend as she's trying to break into the party.
Yeah, that was my idea.
I was just going to ask, where the heck did that come from? Whose demented mind was that? And what did she think about that when she had to do this?
Yeah, well, the concept of the video came rather easily because of the lyric to the song. And one of the bodyguards, the bouncer, the one that actually sprays the girl, I worked with him about 6 months earlier because he's a tremendous artist. And he worked with me on creating the storyboard. So I kind of, you know, directed him on this is how the breakdown is going to go. And when I told him I wanted to do this, you know, like cool off sort of thing, because she's trying to seduce them to get into the party, that he was like, dude, that's hilarious. If that actually happens, that's going to be hilarious. And a couple of months later, when we were casting, I went to him. His name is Chris. I said, Chris, you have to be this part. He's like, really, me? Yeah. And then he agreed to do it. And the other guy is a friend of mine named Steve. They're both unbelievably sweet, and I did martial arts with them. They were not in Blackbelt. They were not in the band. But they're a little bit older than I am, and, you know, they were like, they're too cool to be hanging out with.
They look like bodyguards, you know.
Yeah, they're huge. I mean, Steve is tall too. Chris is shorter than I am, but, you know, he was a bodybuilder, and he does all the pose down shows and that stuff. And you know, so they're absolutely massive and can crush you very easily. So they were unbelievable sports, and Jenna Finn, who's the actress that plays the crazy ex-girlfriend, we grew up not far apart from each other, but we never knew one another until we went to college, and I met her at Northeastern, and she was a drama major, and I just thought she was perfect for the role. And she's starting to do some bigger things, and she's done some commercial print as well as television commercials. And she's been on a few reality shows and doing big things there. So it kind of brought together my hometown and a lot of high school friends, middle school friends, elementary school friends, and then bringing in people from my martial arts background and people from college, and it kind of felt like this big homecoming sort of thing. And then we did the release party in my hometown at one of the go-to de facto bars, and, you know, packed the place and had a big party and watched the video a couple times, and food and games and raffles, and it was just really, really fun. And that video was a large undertaking. We did it over the course of 2 days, and we were running really behind schedule. I mean, we just had to put pedal to the metal for the last couple of hours before we had to wrap things up. And in some respects, I'm surprised that we finished it. I would have thought it would have had to have been shelved and then go back to it maybe a couple of weeks later. But it's a testament to everyone's will to get the project done. And I love that video. It's always good for a laugh. And I still get a lot of comments between, you know, Steve, the bouncer, falling in the pool, and me pushing Jenna in the pool, of course, her getting sprayed, Steve's hammer, and the chickens. The chickens were a bit.
Now, I got to ask, though. So the concept of being stalked by an ex, that's something that really happened?
Sadly, yeah. I mean, I cartooned it a bit, but the root of it is true. And I actually have a pretty poor dating history, and I dated these two girls in succession that were a little obsessive. Let's put it that
Okay.
way.
All right.
And when things didn't work out, well, they turned the crazy on, and this stuff just started happening, and they'd be waiting for me outside, and they'd be writing me these kind of creepy letters about how they'll never leave me, and all sorts of bizarro stuff. So the root of the song lyrics are all true. It's just that I amp them up to emphasize the craziness, and it's a pop punk song, so
Yeah.
I wanted that kind of cartoony thing going on, and it worked. But yeah, it's pretty much all true, just turned up to 11, if you will.
There's nothing wrong with that. It all works. All right. So let's talk about the big thing that you have going on right now.
Yeah.
Right now, you're in the middle of creating a new album.
Yes, I am.
And you're working with Gino Vannelli.
Yep.
And you actually met Gino back in 2012 through a master's class you were taking. Why don't you tell us about how you met him and how you decided to work with him, and then we'll get into the new album.
Yeah, sure. In the winter of 2012, Gino put something on his social media pages and on his website saying he was going to do a master's class at his studio in Portland, Oregon, and he was inviting young talent, up-and-coming talent to submit, and you would get a week's time with him, and there were two classes, the art of song and the art of voice. And one was focused on songwriting and lyrical structure, musical structure, and putting together a composition. And the other was about working on vocal technique, mic technique, and singing both live and in the studio. And I really wanted to go out for it, but I was a little unsure. I thought, I don't know if this is going to work out. And then how am I going to get out to Portland? When the stuff was going on, that was going to be around the time that I was booked to do a promo tour on the West Coast. So I'd be closer to it, but the schedule wasn't ironed out. And I wasn't sure if I'd have another commitment that I'd have to honor. So I was a little worried and basically creating excuses because I was nervous. He's been an idol of mine, a musical idol, since I was in middle school. So it was one of those things. I don't know if I have the guts to do this. But I got to know a bunch of his fans because I had seen Gino perform several times throughout the years, and we kind of look similar, especially with the hair.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have mistaken me for his son. And I've met Gino.
You get free drinks that way. Yeah,
well, I mean, I got to take a lot of pictures, and after a while, I got tired of telling people no, so I made a joke. Yeah, I'm his son, whatever. And I got to meet him a couple of times at those meet and greets, but nothing where I think he would really remember me. But his fans did. So at the encouragement of some of them, very passionately, mind you, I submitted a couple of my songs off of Words Left Unsaid. And a couple of weeks later, I got an email from his management saying that I had been handpicked by him and selected to attend the class, and here's what you have to do now. And I was so excited and so shocked that I almost didn't know what to do. And I told my parents, and right then and there just, locked everything up and said, this is what we're going to do, and was able to find time where it would still be before the shows started, or the big shows anyway, with the West Coast tour and the promo for Words Left Unsaid. And I went up there, and we bonded really quickly and hit it off in that way. And it really evolved into this kind of student, teacher, mentor, protege relationship. And as time moved on, I saw him again, and we talked every now and then, and I became friendly with his management as well, that the following year he wanted to do the class again, but before he opened it up to the general public, he wanted to extend an invite to me that I could go back without having to re-audition, reapply, any of that stuff. So absolutely, I jumped at the opportunity, and this next time, I brought in a brand new song that I had written called One Moment. And I kind of wanted to see what would happen, to work on a new song, but I'm doing the vocal class. And he really pushed me. He took me out of my comfort zone, and he made me approach my songwriting and my editing from another perspective. And I broke down that song with him many, many times and went through tons and tons of edits and notes with him on what could be changed, how I could sing something different, slightly different rhyme schemes. And over the course of that week, what developed was a different type of relationship. And it wasn't as student teacher as before, but more of a peer-to-peer thing. And he really treated me as an equal. And the guy sold over 20 million albums and is, you know, played to stadiums and arenas and has his Juno Awards in Canada and his Grammy nod. So, I mean, to have that sort of respect from him was an incredible feeling for me. And I had lunch with him a couple of times that week, and to just sit and not talk about only music, but about life and sports, science, current events, things like that. It was really, really cool. So fast forward about another year, we were talking again, and I was originally in talks with his brothers, who are great engineers and musicians of their own, to do something with them. And I wanted to approach him about doing the vocal tracks there. But then as we started getting into the conversation, it turned into, well, let's just do the whole album together. And he agreed to it, and he was really excited to do it. And then we started spitballing ideas on what we could do. And I sent in a bunch of demos right after that, and we started taking notes and trying to figure out our schedule and how to get this done. And I'm really excited. He's really excited, and I know this is going to be just the most special thing I've ever done. And I can't wait.
Yeah, and you're also kicking it up another notch with a Kickstarter project. So tell us about the Kickstarter project. I know you started this. Well, it's been, what, about a week ago, maybe a couple of weeks ago at most. Yeah. And this is to fund the album. What are the funds going to be used for? How are you putting it all together? And I also want to talk about how much time people have left in order to pledge to the project as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The Kickstarter, we have a very detailed breakdown if you go on the Kickstarter to see what the main goal is, which is 20,000. And then stretch goals up to 80 or 85,000. And the basic funds are going to go towards tracking and mixing and getting the album finished. And then from there, we're talking about promotion. That means web banners, commercials that can be put on YouTube and even late night television, internet radio and terrestrial radio, satellite radio, a radio campaign. Then we're talking about music videos, which are essential and something that I really enjoy doing, and obviously the audience is enjoying them too, and I hope that continues. And just about getting it to as many people as possible. I mean, working with a big name producer, obviously it's going to come with a hefty price tag, and he's working with me and being really generous with his prices, and I can't thank him enough for that. But I do need help. And the reason I did a Kickstarter was now I feel like all these people that have supported me in the past, they can come on board with this project. Now they can take this journey with me. There are so many great packages that there's something for everybody. And they include autographed CDs, T-shirts, limited edition posters, photo books.
Guitars.
There's an autographed guitar. Yeah. Even more things outside the box. I'm offering music lessons that can be done over Skype. I even have one where I will write a song for you, about you, and, you know, it's something that you can have.
You're going to be writing a lot of songs about girls, I think.
Doing it, it's really fun, and it's off to a tremendous start. We're already almost 20% of the way there, and it's only been a week, so I'm really thankful for that. And we're just trying to keep that momentum going. And anybody that is interested should please check it out and spread the word. There's something there for everybody, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this journey with everybody, because if you become a backer, then you get all the exclusive behind the scenes, and it doesn't matter what level you back, because we have things that go up from, you know, as low as $1 up to $1,000 packages. The more you pledge, obviously, and you get to see more. But even if you donate $1, you will still get some of the exclusive behind the scenes and things that the general public does not get to see. And it'll be fun. You'll be a fly on the wall in the studio, and you'll get to hear the tracks as they come together and get exclusive sneak peeks and stream it early, even download it early. So there's a lot there for any music lover, and I'm really excited about this. I want everybody listening out there to be as excited as I am, and to come on board and take this journey with me, because I'm like really living out my dream at this point. And what's the fun doing it by yourself? I want everyone else for the ride.
Exactly. Yeah. Now let me ask you, can people go to your website, jamiealimorad.com, find a link to the Kickstarter project from there? Absolutely. And I'm also going to put a link right here in this video so you can actually see it there as well. Perfect. But definitely go to Jamie's website, jamiealimorad.com. Right there in the lower third, you can see that.
There it is.
There you go. And definitely want everybody to help you out on that. Now, the whole crowdsourcing, crowdfunding projects and things like that. First of all, Kickstarter is a site that started out. They had to approve all the projects before they were allowed to continue on the site. Is that still the case?
That is still the case. And I actually had to have a background check before
Really?
Yeah, they had to verify my identity and go through all that stuff to make sure I say who I say I am and I'm not some sort of fraud. So, but they cleared that up really quick. I mean, I'm actually really impressed at how efficient they are, because I've done stuff with other crowdsourcing websites in the past and organizations, and it takes a little bit more time. And I know it's been a couple of years since I've done something, but they got back to me so quickly and were so easy to work with, and it's been great. And I like the idea of crowdsourcing. In a lot of respects, the fans get to be the record company, because for people that don't know, a record company gives you money to record an album and get it out there, and they have a budget for advertisement and all that stuff, and they get a little kickback and all that. So for the fans, you're now contributing the money to get it recorded and the promo and all that stuff, and your kickback is all this exclusive line of merchandise that you can't get anywhere else, and you get to be involved with the project, and it's so rewarding. And it's obviously different for me because I'm the one actually going through the motions, and will be singing and playing and all that stuff. But I've pledged and donated back to whatever term you want to use so many other projects before, that getting those updates and seeing what they do, and not just for music, I'm talking video games and films and web series. It's really exciting to see people that are passionate about what they do doing what they love, and it's so rewarding to go through that with them from afar. And that to me is the best part. So I'm behind it. I love the fact that it's a thing now. It's something that is kind of the norm. And there are a lot of great projects out there. I was perusing through Kickstarter and Indiegogo and Pledge Music before I actually launched mine, and just looking at what's out there, there's a lot of great stuff, and there is something for everybody, for every genre, for every style. And I think that's really cool that you can find your niche now.
So what's the hardest part about putting together a crowdfunding project these days? I mean, on Indiegogo, it's a fairly easy thing. The fact is these sites all work a little bit differently. With some place like Indiegogo, whatever's pledged is what you get, regardless of whether it meets your goal or not. With Kickstarter, a little bit different.
Yeah, it's an all or nothing thing. And there has been studies that the all or nothing thing sense of urgency has an effect on consumers, that they feel more important. And I certainly agree with that, because I've been the consumer. Like, I really want to help these people, or this guy or this girl, do what they want to do. And I like that. It's a little bit of a gamble and a little bit of a risk on the person creating the projects, but you understand that going into it. And, as far as getting people to be on board, I think the hardest part is actually getting them to pay attention, because in today's society with social media, you do see it a lot. It has become the norm, and you get jaded. So you're just like, yeah, whatever,
Yeah,
next.
and not
Next.
only that, you run into a situation where, you know, you're on Twitter, I'm on Twitter, everybody's on Twitter,
Right.
but things on Twitter just go by so
Yeah,
fast that
it's
you
gone.
almost have to hit it at the exact moment they're on, and there's no way of really knowing that hardly.
It's true, and I'm pretty much glued to my social media at this point, and constantly sending out blasts and updates and tagging people in it, or just making general posts about the project and about Kickstarter, and to please check it out. And I mean, so far the response has been terrific, and I'm so glad that it's going that way. And I'm really grateful for everyone that's become an early backer, and excited for everybody else to come on board, because it is really exciting. And the updates are only going to get better and better, and we're really getting detailed as we move along with what we're going to be able to expose to everyone and show what's happening. So I will be all over social media, and you'll see that everywhere. And I've been really impressed with the amount of shares that have been happening from the Kickstarter page. They don't track Twitter and Pinterest and Google Plus on there for whatever reason, but they do track the Facebook shares, and we're like creeping up towards 1,000 shares in like a week's time. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool that it is getting out there. And as I said, we're creeping up towards 20% funded already. And the funding does end on Friday, April 24th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So just before midnight on the 25th on the East Coast. And so there's plenty of time, but there's no time like today to become a backer.
Exactly.
And then you get more exposure. The earlier you back, the more updates and behind the scenes, and you can, probably be starting to send out what the demos sound like and things like that. You do get access to that.
And the thing is, you also get the better rewards are still available.
Absolutely, yeah. Because if you want to pledge more, the higher quantities or the higher financial levels are limited. Like for the $1,000 package, there's 10. For the $150 package, there's I think 50. And then there's a 300. I think there's only 3, because that's the custom song thing. And I think there's another like $500 one, the guitar one, the $500 one. There's only 10, because I only have so many guitars I can give.
Now, are these guitars you're going to actually play in the creation of the album, perhaps?
No, because they're going to be right-handed guitars, and I'm left-handed.
Hey, welcome to the club. Me too.
Yeah. So I mean, I can play upside down, but it's much harder for me. I'm right-handed when I write. I'm just left-handed in guitar because it's easier for me for whatever reason, and it's just a pain in the butt to find a left-handed guitar. So I will play those guitars, though. I promise before I sign, and I can even video that for proving, like, here it is. There's your guitar.
There you go.
But it's exciting, and the other guitars that'll be in use, I don't think the musicians I'm going to use and Gino as well are going to be really willing to part with their guitars. So you'll get stuff from me.
All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about being an indie artist.
Sure.
Because you've been an indie artist out since 2008.
Yeah.
And on MSI, we try our best to help promote the indie artist and the music that they make. Now, as an indie artist, you've been across the country promoting your music, playing your music for people, and building your fan base. And I think you've done a great job of it. So what are some of the lessons that you've learned over the past number of years doing what you do as an indie artist that you might think would be helpful to other indie artists who are either just starting out, have been in it for a while, and just haven't necessarily got to the level that you've gotten to, and are striving toward that direction?
Sure. The biggest piece of advice that I can offer anybody that is starting out, and it might sound really obvious or elementary, like, yeah, duh, but you get so excited about doing what you love that you might not think about it. So my biggest piece of advice is, before you get out there, whether you're going to be playing shows or record a single, an EP, a full length, have a plan, have an idea of what exactly you want to do right now. Have short-term goals and have long-term goals and really sit and break it down. You can go into it blissfully unaware, and sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle. But if you're a little bit more prepared and figure out, this is what I want to be doing now, this is what I want to be doing a little bit later, and this is what I want to be doing way later. And if you approach your craft and your art and your brand that way, it'll be much easier, and you'll be way more organized, so you know what you're doing. Your musicians will know what you're doing. If you have a team like a booking agent, management, publicist, roadies, whatever, they'll know what you're doing, and you're clearly running the show here. Because as an indie artist, that's the best part. You get to run the show. So if you know what you're doing, no one can say that you don't know what you're doing. You know, you're clearly in charge, and you don't really have to show any weakness or give up anything. You don't have to compromise. And from there, I think that's the best way to get your name out and to be exposed to as many people in the right way as possible. And it will be tough. You know, some markets and some personal situations are easier than others, but you have to be persistent and you have to persevere. And then eventually, you know, doors will start to open, things will start to move, and you'll get there. I mean, my first show playing by myself, I was doing an open mic showcase thing in Boston in a bowling alley lounge. And it was mainly Berkeley kids there, and no one was really paying attention. But I went in there knowing exactly what I wanted to play, and I had the set list in a particular order to kind of suck people in and then keep them there. And then
I figured you'd be one of the guys get up on the mic and just kind of threw it down and say, all right, pay attention. I'm up here. This is my time. Yeah, you know.
That's a lesson I learned very young, actually, from martial arts. I mean, the whole black belt thing is like really connecting here, but that's something that I learned from one of my instructors, and I keep that mentality every time I do a show. You know, the audience is going to be talking when the lights are on, and then when the lights go down, they want to pay attention, but you have to make them pay attention. You can't put on a terrible show and expect them to love you. And especially when it's intimate, you know, you really have to be on. So I've played in venues where there's literally been no one but the other bands, and I've played in stadiums where there's been about 40,000 people there. And either way, I treat it exactly the same, because you never know who's in the audience. You never know who that person is that could say, I want to do something with that kid, or say, wow, that was terrible, I never want to see that name again. So I approach every show the same way, regardless if the stage is falling apart or if it's a $1 million property, you know.
Now, how does that differ in the recording studio? Because, you know, obviously, you know, we talked, you had been involved in theater, I was involved in theater, and there's nothing like that live audience in front of you and the reaction and the energy you get from them. But when you're in studio, there's, you know, it's you, your bandmates, the big piece of glass in front of you. You know, how do you catch that energy in the studio that you would get off the stage?
I fortunately have a very wild imagination. So there have been a lot of times where I've been able to just close my eyes and create the scene and the story of the song, have it play out in my head. And because most of the time I'm singing from my point of view, I treat it as if I'm in the story and I'm going through what the lyric is and living that with my eyes closed. Sometimes I could do it with my eyes open as you do it more and more after a couple of takes and stuff like that. And it's really getting in that headspace. And I never really noticed how different it is when you get emotionally attached to what you're singing, as opposed to just being technically correct, until I started recording myself on my own and hearing playback. And there'd be some songs where I would feel way more connected to what I was singing. Or in the studio, we'd track something and I would sing it 2 different ways. And whatever struck a nerve more, I would say, that's what I want to use. And it can be difficult. And sometimes a song can be really painful and you don't want to explore those feelings again, because writing it was bad enough. Now you have to sing it so that people can feel what you were feeling, which means you have to feel it again.
Exactly.
that might not be a pleasant experience. But on the other hand, there are other things that are like, oh God, I just can't wait to do this again. I can't wait to talk about this experience and about this song lyric or sing about it. It's all about getting in control of yourself and working with the mic. It's so different working with the studio mic. They're way more sensitive. I'm a notorious toe tapper, and there'd be many times I'd have such a killer take, and I'm like, what's that pulse in the background? It's my foot.
Now, the thing that like I said before we started recording, we talked about our theater backgrounds, and I emphasized in directing in theater because I didn't like being in front of the crowd that much, and of course now we're on camera all the time. So, but one of the things that you find a lot of young actors having problems with, and I would imagine it's the same thing as an artist out in the world, being on stage and really exposing themselves, exposing their feelings. And so how did you get over, or how would you, what advice would you give other musicians of getting over that whole, they're looking at me, you know, how do you get them to the point where they just don't care what everybody else is saying about them, how they're looking at them? They're in it to bring them on the ride with them.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I fortunately have never had to deal with true stage fright. I've had butterflies and nerves before going on stage, but I have never had, you know, whatever the scientific term is for stage fright. But I'm a really private person, and to expose my deepest feelings from a song, I would always think, oh man, they're going to judge that, you know, I felt this way about someone, or that I did this or did that. And that's something that I feel like you just need to keep doing it. You need to keep getting on stage. You need to feel the lights. You need to hear the crowd. Sometimes doing it in front of less people is actually worse than doing it in front of more, because you really feel the heat from the audience. And much like riding a bicycle, I just believe that the more you do it, the better you'll become at it, and the easier it will be. And I've been performing since I was about 7, so I'm used to it. And as a little kid, I used to love like reenacting shows and, you know, Paddington Bear in front of my family and stuff like that. So I liked putting on performances. And you get to a point, and maybe you've kind of felt this way from the other side of the stage when you did musical theater. I could get so in tune with a character sometimes that my brain can wander and be thinking about other things, but I can still keep that same intensity. And it's like when you just memorize a script and you know the blocking from your director's chair that, you know, actor A is supposed to move to point X and actor B is supposed to go to point Y. And that's just the way that it works. And you can do it blindfolded after a while. And I feel that's what it takes to get over it, is to just keep doing it. And even if you do it in front of an empty room, it's the repetition that will turn into muscle memory that eventually you won't even care about the audience.
See how we wound up back in martial arts again there somehow? Yeah, the whole muscle repetition. So
it just keeps coming back.
It's kind of like the saying goes, you know, you dance like no one's watching.
Yeah, exactly. And it's true. And anybody that has a little bit of stage fright that wears glasses, easy remedy, don't wear your glasses on stage. I mean, everything will be blurry, but as long as you know from the muscle memory what your mark is, what spot you have to hit, and what you're going to do for what song or what number, you don't need to see anything as long as you don't fall off the stage.
Yeah, just don't get too close to the edge.
Yeah, just don't go where it's dark. You know, that's it. Don't go too far towards the darkness.
All right, so Jamie, what can we expect out of this new album? What do you got in the works for us as far as surprises? I know that your music's great music. You kind of mix it up a little bit in, you know, keeping things moving along, as they say.
Yeah.
So what do you got? What do you got coming up in the way of surprises for us? Is going to keep our toes tapping and, you know, just bebopping around, man.
Well, with my pre-production talks and meetings with Gino, the direction of this album is going to be true to my roots, but we're going to push it a little bit further. Everyone knows that I'm a big fan of the classic rock sound, the 60s, Beatlemania harmonies into the 80s. And the way that those melodies and the harmonies and the riffs interact with one another. And I want to keep that truth to my writing, and I'm going to. But Gino is starting to emphasize some other rhythmic things and ways to change it up so that you can still be yourself, but you're kind of introducing somewhat of a new sound. And our goal with this album is to take rock music and put it to the next level, because you hear a lot of feedback and a lot of comments from today that rock music, well, first off, a lot of people say rock music's dead, which I do disagree with, but it has become very cookie cutter. There is a clear formula that people aren't breaking, and it's starting to become stale. Our goal with this record is to put together truly a unique project, and especially for rock, that has not been heard ever before. And I know with his mind and his ability at the helm, his vision, as well as my vision, my songs, and my ability, and us moving together in the same direction, that we are going to do something that's really, really cool and really, really unique. And I know on the production end, he's gotten a lot of new toys since I was last in that studio, and he's been experimenting with sounds as he's finishing up his brand new album. And I can't wait to get in there and mess around with him and experiment, and then just dive right in and really nail these songs and produce something that everybody will be proud of. And especially for those that are getting in on the Kickstarter, you will get to see how it grows and becomes what the final product is. Because as a songwriter, that's the most rewarding thing for me. I wrote this little song at my keyboard or with my guitar in my room, and it turned into this, and it's incredible. It is like watching, I don't have any kids, but it is like watching something grow in front of you, and that's the closest thing I've had to a child, and I hope that's the case for a while. You know what I mean? But
so what is the most I don't want to say, I don't want to conceptualize it as an out there kind of thing, but what's the most surprising thing that's going to be coming up on the new album that people are going to go, wow?
Well, I think I think the soundscape is going to be what people are surprised at, because what you hear from a lot of my stuff in the past is very full and like right at you, like right away. But Gino and I are emphasizing a lot of breakdowns and, pulling things here and there, that the song moves in a slightly different way than before. And instead of constantly building, maybe it came at you right away and then it pulled back.
So you're pulling people in.
Yeah, and we want to really emphasize suspense and to keep you on the edge of your seat. And I'm someone that grew up where music was an experience. I love digging into liner notes and reading the lyrics and reading the credits and looking at the artwork while I was listening to the CD or the cassette. In today's world, we're so hustle and bustle and on the move and everything's digital that you don't really have that sort of listening experience anymore. It becomes background music. My goal with these songs is to bring people back into a listening experience where you're sitting down, and whatever format you have it in, because we're going to produce a digital download, CD, and vinyl, cool. That you will get to sit and really listen and enjoy it. And it won't be just a thing where, the only time you hear it at max volume is in your car, but to really say, I want to sit down and actually listen to this album because it's really cool. And that's our goal. That's our goal with it, and I know it's going to get there, and I'm really excited with what we've done so far and how pumped he is about the demos that I gave in, and I can't wait to get in there in the spring or the summer to really bang it out.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a great album, and of course, I wish you all the luck with your Kickstarter campaign.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And of course, we want everybody go to Kickstarter. This link down here, you can go to jamiealimorad.com, find out more about it, keep up to date with Jamie, where he's at, what he's doing, and make your donation over there at Kickstarter as well. Help Jamie out, get this thing going, and make it great. I know it's going to be great regardless, but, the more the merrier, right? Absolutely. Everybody come on board because it's going to be one heck of a ride. Join me on this pretty fantastic journey. All right. Well, Jamie, thanks for being here on this MSI Extra. I know that you've got places to be, people to see. I know you have at least one other interview today.
Yes, I do.
So, all right, everybody, thanks for being with us on MSI Extra. Don't forget to check out JamieAlimorad.com. And you can also check him out on MusicSceneInvestigation.com, where we're going to have this video available for everybody over on YouTube as well and on iTunes. You know where you get it all the time. So thanks for being here, everybody. We'll talk to you next time on MSI Extra.
Bye.